Hey there, I'm Michelle, and welcome to the Leadership Growth Lab, the podcast where we ditch the leadership fluff and get into what actually works. If you're a new or emerging leader trying to figure out how to lead people without losing your mind or your integrity, you're in the right place. I've spent over 30 years leading teams, making mistakes, and learning the hard way so you don't have to. This isn't about motivational posters and feel-good quotes. This is real talk, real stories, and real strategies to help you become the leader you're meant to be. Let's get into it.
Well, hello. Today I want to talk about how important the authenticity is in leadership, because I think too often we are trying to ensure we're staying positive, yet balancing that with holding people accountable. And, we want to be liked as leaders. And so, we want to be seen as nice and all these things, right? So sometimes we maybe are approaching those things and we're not being the most authentic. I'll give you an example. Um, when this happens most often with this, when giving praise to a direct report or a team member, it's really easy because we feel like we should almost like to check off a box, say to them, hey, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate everything you're doing. But unless that's tied to a specific action, unless that's tied to a specific event, that employee is not necessarily going to understand what specifically they did that made them made you feel that they did a good job. And the appreciating that is done honestly more in your actions than it is in your words. And this doesn't mean that you have to, uh, you know, throw gifts at them and all of that kind of stuff. You don't. I mean, it's great if you can, but there's a lot of companies that just don't have a budget out there for that kind of stuff. And honestly, there's, you know, you're not expected to do it out of your own pocket. There are some leaders that do that, that spend their own money to give tangible rewards to their employees, but not every person is, feels appreciation the same way. So tangible rewards sometimes aren't as meaningful to that person as maybe a written word or a recognition in front of a group or, something along those lines, maybe additional responsibilities or opportunities. All of those things sometimes are more meaningful to that specific employee. So being authentic, one of the best tips I can say is you have to be a human when you're at work. I understand there is a line between a boss and an employee. Absolutely. Um, you have to have that line that you don't cross. Okay. As the leader, that line is your responsibility to establish. That is your responsibility to hold that line and not to cross it. The employee may cross it. Okay. But that's not their job to know where that line is. That's not their job to adhere to that line. It is your job to remind them of the line and to get them back on their sideline, right? So I say this because you still need to be authentic. You still need to build relationships with your direct reports and with your team members and get to know them as humans. And this is not about digging into their personal business. People will share what they're comfortable sharing. So if you're talking to them and you get the fact that you get the feeling that there's a wall there, that's fine. They're not comfortable sharing, so that's fine. You move on from that. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't ask. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't. And when you do ask, and we do have these conversations, phones down, complete concentration, and focus on them. And it can be a casual conversation. You don't need to like schedule this or set aside time, but you can if you do struggle with that. Maybe you have a weekly 10-minute one-on-one with them that you just check in, touch base, Or maybe that's the thing you do every morning is you go around to all your team members and check in with them, see how they're doing, see what they're working on, see if they need any help. Maybe that's how you build authenticity and trust on your team. But if you're not connecting with them as a real human, and when I say connecting, you also need to share your own stuff. You need to share with them as well. Again, you choose what you decide to share, but you have to let them see you as a human being. You have to let them see you as a real person, because then when you are giving them praise, when you are holding them accountable, they're going to know you as a person a little bit more, and they're going to trust that that's coming from an authentic place. They're not going to feel like you're just throwing superlatives at them because you feel guilty about something, or that you know that you're supposed to praise them. And so you're checking, a to-do off a checklist. So authenticity is incredibly important on building trust on the team. And it really can make or break the culture on your team. The culture starts with you as the leader. You have to build it. You have to set the tone. You have to maintain it. And you have to set the standards around what is acceptable in your culture and what is not. How we treat each other, all of that. You set that tone. If you take your foot off the gas in a certain area, you will see that that area falls. It's just the way it is. So how do you ensure that you keep your authentic self present during your workday and in your interactions with your team? Put it in the comments. I want to know. And we will see you next time.
All right, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Leadership Growth Lab. I hope you're walking away with at least one thing you can put into practice this week, because that's what it's all about. Real growth, real progress. If you found this helpful, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share it with somebody who's navigating their own leadership journey. Remember, great leaders aren't born, they're built, and you're doing the work. I'll see you next time.